Welcome back to Blue Tongue TV. My name's Joe and today we're going to look at polygenics. Okay, now polygenics means many genes. Poly from the Latin meaning many, and genes obviously all the different genes that we have. So it basically means a multitude of different genes. And the best way to describe this is when you look at two different wild type animals. You've got this guy here that shows plenty of yellows and this guy here that shows plenty of pinks. Now, this isn't a classic genetic trait like when we've discussed albinism or we've discussed hypermelanism. This is what some people refer to as natural variation, if you like. And in reality, there's many genes in play which actually distinguish the different colours that there are in wild type animals. And when we actually start to play with these animals and breed them, we then use the term polygenics to then help us with line breeding. So what you would do is you would pair two specifically yellow animals together to try and replicate more yellow animals, and two of the more pinky orangey animals together to replicate more of these guys. And like I said, this doesn't hold a true and fast genetic mode of inheritance. It is a multitude of genes used to do some line breeding. It's as simple as that. Okay, so with our polygenics, this doesn't just happen in non-genetic animals. You will also find a polygenic overlay when looking at some of the genetic traits that we've already discussed. To illustrate that, we have these guys. These are what are referred to as white northerns. They're a recessive trait, and unbelievably, you look at these two guys, they are genetically the same, but there is a massive variation across that trait. Here we have a darker tan animal, and here we have what is almost a brilliant white animal. So, with the same mode of inheritance, we could actually line breed these animals to get more white ones, or more of the tan ones. If we got two of the tan phenotype and paired them together, you would more likely get more tan animals. And if you got two of the brilliant white phenotypic animals together, you're going to get litters of the more pure white variant. And again, this also is the same when you look at albinos. You know, exactly same genotype, but almost a different phenotype. You know, you've got high orange and high yellow. Again, gives a great opportunity for some line breeding to create lots of different and fancy albinos. Okay, so that's polygenics explained. We're once again going to go over to our good old buddy Dr. Steve, who's going to look at this and put the old science spin on it again. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, Steve here. Today I'm going to discuss polygenic inheritance and traits. We have previously discussed traits which are passed on to offspring by a single gene and their variants called alleles. Polygenic inheritance describes a mode of inheritance where the combination of multiple different genes affect the outcome of a single trait. These traits often have scaled variation and are not simply either present or absent, such as the lack of melanin in albinos and presence of melanin in animals with a normal wild-type allele. The amount of black pigment in blue tongues and the amount of striping in carpet pythons are examples of polygenic traits. These traits can typically be selectively bred or line bred, pairing animals similar in appearance in an attempt to replicate or enhance the intensity of the trait in their offspring. The ratio of the young displaying the trait are less predictable than the other forms of inheritance covered previously. This mode of inheritance is greatly responsible for the variation in appearance across siblings, unrelated animals, and across different color mutations. Polygenic variation can make it difficult to identify blue tongues that are heterozygous for hypermelanism. These hets are typically darker than their wild-type siblings, but the amount of black in normal wild-type homozygous animals and hets can vary due to polygenics. Heterozygotes that are quite light can be difficult to differentiate from normal wild-type animals that are dark. That's all for this week's lesson on polygenic inheritance. Be sure to tune into next week's video on double genetics, where things start to heat up with the lava.